Now, broadcasting live from the Podcast Palace on Park Street in beautiful and dangerous Clearwater, Florida, it's the Comedians Uncorked podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Tony God and Pat Largo.
Hey guys, welcome to the first ever Comedians Uncorked podcast. Rule number 1, make sure the phone is down and don't get any fan calls going on here. We got a lot going on, man. My name is Pat Largo. This is Tony God right here.
Tony God.
And again, it's our first one, and hopefully of many, of a really great podcast here out of Clearwater, Florida. But don't get scared. We're not talking about just stuff going on in Florida or the Tampa Bay area. We're fans of comedy. We do comedy, and we love comedy. So we're going to be talking about stuff all over the country, even perhaps the world.
The world.
Yeah. So that's the beauty of it. Who would have thought, man, years ago?
It's a big place.
It's a huge place.
Keep talking. I'm going to adjust the camera a little bit.
Who would have thought, though, years ago, you can just get some equipment, right, off of some websites, and just be anywhere you want to be at any given time, and put something on this thing called the World Wide Web. And that's what's so cool about this. So many podcasts out there, and there's so many ones that I have favorites of. And this is going to be hopefully slightly different. This is going to be totally...
I had to make sure I was on camera.
Are you on camera, babe?
I'm on camera now.
Look, I know. You only had me on before.
I mean, you're good to look at. But
this isn't the Pat Largo show.
I got to get some camera time,
Yes. Oh, and speaking of...
Unless you're listening, then this doesn't even matter.
Doesn't pertain to you.
Doesn't even matter.
And a huge thanks to our sponsor for the Comedians Uncorked podcast, Julie Drolshagen of Century 21. And you can reach her at 727-902-9233. She helped us out with this, and if you need anything real estate-wise,
awesome.
really cool person.
Well, she's got a background in publicity from years ago, so we're gonna from LA. So we're gonna drag her in and have her share some stories.
And she said something Julie, we love you. She said something very entertaining about that. For years, she was a publicist in, like you said, Hollywood and L.A. doing movies for years, and she would take the stars and the people to radio stations to promote the movies, right?
Yeah.
And she said, even though the acting is cool and the actors are great, and I loved it, she goes, I loved comedians the most because she said that she saw that was the hardest thing being in L.A. and Hollywood and seeing the Comedy Store and the Laugh Factory. She goes... It's just you and a microphone up there. And she goes, I found it to be the most difficult thing to do and so lonely. And I said, damn, you're depressing me, for Christ's sake.
And we're lovable. Comics are lovable because we drink a lot, stuff like that.
It's amazing. That's to be around people like that make me laugh all the time. And I love that. So that's really cool. Now, on tap tonight, we have a lot of stuff that we're going to get to you. Some different things that we're going to be talking about here. I know you brought a list in and something pertaining to Dave Chappelle, which of course that's a hot topic. Just saying Dave Chappelle nowadays, that's a hot topic.
So some of the news stories, obviously, we're gonna kick it off with a Chappelle story.
So we got that.
Relevant.
A little bit later, we're going to do one of my favorite segments called "Where They At," where we're going to tell what's going on with comedians in and around the Tampa Bay area, like for tomorrow and the weekend, but not just around the Tampa Bay area, around right now the southeastern part of the country. And we got some great ones coming to town there.
Yes.
And then a few people who said they were going to subscribe, thank goodness, to the Comedians Uncorked podcast asked a very simple question. They said, "How'd you get started with Comedians Uncorked?"
Did you lie to them?
No, I know because I had nothing seedy about it. Otherwise, I would totally lie to them.
You should have done it anyway.
I mean,
that's the move.
I should have embellished.
Just to practice your
right,
lying.
Right. And people were wondering it, and I said, "Well, I have a radio background. I was a radio personality in the Tampa Bay area and Orlando area for years here. And Tony, you are of course a stand-up comic.
I have a comedian background, a background in stand-up comedy, and that's how we met. Mm-hmm. Because I was as a comedian, I was the regular host at my home club, which is Tampa Improv. Mm-hmm. I was the house MC there. And one of the duties was to take the headliners to do media, to do radio, television. They go in the morning, you hear them on your drive to work and, that kind of thing. So that's where we met. And this was like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Something like that. It's like a long time.
I'll tell you, I'll give some love and a shout out. When I was working at 97X, WSUN, in the Tampa Bay market, I was doing middays, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. I would love it when the morning show, okay, when Fisher and Napoleon, or then Fisher and Boy would go on vacation for a week, I would do mornings. So I look forward to Fridays because I know Tony was going to bring in whoever was touring at the Improv. I got a chance to meet and hang out with, and I love them all. Dave Attell.
Yes.
Wanda Sykes.
Yeah.
The late, great Robert Schimmel, which I have a story.
Schimmel, oh my God.
The late, great Schimmel.
Awesome.
I have a story about him that made me cry one time on a Zoom meeting because they asked me about this, and the emotion came out of somewhere. I never expected it to happen. Bob Saget.
Bob Saget, yeah.
And is one of my...
I got a story about
oh, God, we all do, but I want to hear yours. And Bill Burr.
Bill Burr, yes.
Now,
I've worked with all of them.
Yes, you have. Now, my backstory real quick about Bill Burr was at another club in Tampa called Side Splitters. I'm going back to 2004. They would call you and get, when I had a landline, and go, hey, Pat Largo, we have a six-pack of tickets coming free to a show. And I called and I said, who's the comedian? They go, oh, funny, you're going to like him. Bill Burr. I said, I'd never heard of him. So I went, and he was funny. And he was selling CDs by hand himself in the lobby afterwards, and I still have the CD.
His own printed out.
Own printed out.
That was the way.
Yeah.
That was the way.
Dude, I bought from Bill Burr, right? So then fast forward a couple of years, I'm at 98 Rock in Tampa. This was my last radio gig. And he comes in, because he's at the Improv, and I mentioned to him a couple of years earlier, I bought a CD from you, but I noticed this. In my briefcase I had for all my morning show papers and different stuff, I had a copy of, I think it was Blender magazine, with Dave Chappelle on the cover, and he has a lighter, and he's lighting up a $100 bill, because this is back when he was leaving the Chappelle show.
Yeah.
And I knew Bill saw it, because he looked down, and he kind of looked at me a little bit, and I was like, damn it, I should have shut the frickin', briefcase. So we're talking about stuff, and I go, by the way, do you care about talk about Chappelle? And he just goes, no, I don't think so. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll just move on. We'll just move on, because he was so pissed because he was on the show a few times.
Yeah, I remember he was on his show.
And there were some funny segments they did together, and he was probably pissed off because he's like, damn man, this was going to be a gravy train for me.
Thinking about losing a gig.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, on the best show in the country at that time.
Yeah.
So, but Burr was, man, it was just so great, man, that to see that. So I would come in, I would do mornings, and then Tony would bring the comics in, and that's how we met. Yeah. And then you fast forward now all these years later, 2018, I was out of a job. I got into a car wreck, and I hurt my neck more, and I couldn't do what I was doing at a hotel, and I had to quit. And I'm out of work, and unemployment's running out, and I go, well, I think about the old Steve Harvey quote, you got to jump, and he goes, it's going to hurt on the way down, but you'll eventually fly. And I go, I got to think of something. So I went to a local place where I live in Pasco County, Florida, and I went to a place just to apply for a job, but we were talking about entertainment. And this place is called Gildog in Port Richey. And Eric Soinen, the owner, goes, I said, hey, do you ever do comedy here? He goes, no. Why? Do you do comedy? I go, I do. He goes, you have a name for the show? I said, I don't. He goes, you have any equipment? I said, I do not. I said, but I have great comedians I know.
I got ideas.
I got ideas.
Idea, man.
That's all I do. I just put pen to paper. Because I'm always nervous a little.
You mentioned that earlier.
That's what I'm saying.
With the pen and the paper.
Just write it down. So we got a show there, and then finally we came up with the name Comedians Uncorked. I think we were doing Uncorked, and I said, how about Comedians Uncorked? Because they're always just spouting off and just saying things. Mm-hmm. So we got that. Now we got a local gig that we got in the Tampa Bay area that I'm so happy to book different shows throughout the Tampa Bay area, and having like you on and a Neri Attorney and so many great local comics.
Yeah, we were doing the shows. Yeah, you were booking the one-nighters. You were setting up shows at different venues, and that was going really good.
Knock on wood, man.
And then 2020 happened.
The stock market crashed.
Yeah, the stock in the world crashed.
That was weird because my last show was March 6th. In Lakeland, Florida, driving home, and then after that, I didn't see the stage until like November of 2020.
My last show was was the 13th. It was a Friday night.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it's Friday the 13th. We do the show, and this is at the Tampa Improv, and it's a showcase format. So everybody's kind of like, it was a weird vibe going because we didn't know what was going to be happening. But then as soon as the show ended, they were like, okay, we're shut down. So it's like as soon as the show was over, we were shut down. And that was the last show until basically towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
When, a couple things popped up, but it was real slow, until now. It's just now starting to get back to some sort of normalcy as far as schedules, like a lot of clubs still aren't doing full weeks.
Correct.
So it's
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From there, because of that, you started doing the Zoom interviews.
Yeah. Everyone, that's how you worked and did stuff, the Zoom stuff and some of the Skype stuff. I'm more of a Zoom guy, by the way. I could do Skype, but and then someone else introduced me to another meeting. Hey, we have this link. I'm like, go fuck yourself. I'm not doing that link
enough.
either. That's enough with the links. I Zoom and I Skype and I put pen to paper. What else do you want from me?
That's 3 things.
Jesus Christ, I'm 51 years old. Lay off. So anyway, I got a problem, as you can see. I got the anger has to come out. Got to get the poison out. No, but you're right, though. I was doing the Zoom stuff and meetings and all this kind of stuff. And short story is, I said one day, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put my logo in the Zoom thing and put it on behind me like a background. And I'm going to say, let me record myself doing some local shows, like just reporting on comics. And it came out okay. And I said, you know what? Why don't I do this weekly? Just to have people around the Tampa Bay area, maybe Orlando sometimes and Sarasota, just say where the comics are. And then I also started doing some interviews called Comedians Uncorked, Uncut, where I believe I did one with you.
Yeah.
And so many great comics, not just from Florida, but around the country.
Yeah, you had some great interviews with people. So it's like,
Thank you.
It was really, I think that really kind of pushed this thing forward, because it was like, you know what? Why not? It's like, it's not like you're coming from a place of not knowing. It's like you're part of the community. And it's like now you're basically extending the conversation, because we couldn't talk in person anymore.
Correct.
We couldn't perform. But this is a way to still get out and have conversations and be accessible to the audience, and not forcing it, not forcing like a show. I know they were doing Zoom shows. I didn't do any of those. I don't get it. It's not my thing, man.
Well, who would have thought if someone said in 2020 you're going to do virtual shows on Zoom, and then like Bert Kreischer and the guys are going out to drive-in movies, and they're having people pull up in their vehicles, and the laughter was them, I think, flashing
the lights and horns, hitting the horns. So.
Is that? I mean, to me, and I come from Florida in the Tampa Bay area where we have enough road rage. If you flash that at me, I'm just putting a bullet in you, because I don't know what that meant.
I don't know what's going on.
But he goes, no, that's the laughter. I mean, Kreischer's from Tampa. He knows the road rage. But I thought that was interesting too. But now, so what I'm saying is, comics were doing anything they could think of. Now, of course, when you're big names like that, when you got Kreischer and Segura, guess what? You're going to have people going to the drive-through to see, or the drive-in to see.
Yeah, you've got an audience already.
Right.
So.
But I mean, I do enjoy the ideas of going, okay, we can't go to an actual stage right now.
Yeah.
How do we do this safely? So I got to tell you, man, if you made some money doing Zoom shows or doing that drive-in shows, I mean, more power to you. It was really cool. More power to you,
Yeah, I agree.
So, but yeah, man.
Do it, yeah.
But what else we got? We got so much other actual show-wise here. Do you want to catch up on any more background? Because I love just telling people where we're coming from here.
Well,
because
I mean, that's basically how the show got started, because I was kind of doing my thing with things on my own YouTube channel. Like I had my own thing with the road stories, and I was interviewing comics on the DMZ, the Demotivational Zone.
That's right.
So we both had similar ideas going, and I think that we just kind of put our heads together and like, let's do this. So we just started to take small steps. Okay, well, let's see if we can put together something. Let's see if we can find a place to do it. So we got some of the equipment. We're upgrading as we go. But from that, we just started contacting friends in the industry that we work with, that we know, and having them be a part of it, and sharing their comedy experiences. So, yeah, I think we're just trying to do it a little different, as opposed to just everyday topical conversations. We want to talk about the industry itself. We want to talk about what's going on in the industry, the news, the stories, who's going on tour, who's working, what's coming out, and tips for people that are interested in doing comedy. You know, some of the listeners may be interested beyond just being a fan. You know, they may want to try it, and we're going to give you some inside tips and basically the rundown of how things work. And even if you don't want to try it, you kind of know how it all goes down. And you already appreciate it. If you're listening, you already appreciate it, but this kind of gives you a little bit more. So
no, you're right. This is probably going to be the most boringest stuff you've heard right now. Then we're going to kick it up because we want to just tell you where we're coming from. But we love comedy. We love comedians. We love comedy clubs. We love to getting on stage and making people laugh. It's cathartic. And we're going to just talk about stuff that we love, and hopefully you dig it. And not to mention, when you guys leave comics or comments and subscribe to the channel and everything, and subscribe to the podcast, we'll be able to interact. And you could say, hey, man, you know what? I love that interview with so-and-so. Can you do more of that or more with that person? Or, hey, I have an idea about this. There's no hating when it comes to this. I like to be as humble as possible because I know I just, between radio and comedy, I got my ass kicked a lot about getting fired and having no money and shit like that. So, I mean, like, I love just talking about stuff, helping people out, and not being overly cruel for no reason. So,
well, hey, man, that being said,
yeah,
let's talk about some news.
Okay.
All right, so I got a couple of stories for you, and I got a couple of things for you to participate in.
Okay.
So the first story is Dave Chappelle. You can't start a comedy podcast without mentioning Dave Chappelle at this point. It's the law now.
It's one of the greatest, and in hot water always now.
Well, here's the story. Dave Chappelle inducts Jay-Z into Rock Hall of Fame with unapologetic speech. Here, I'll read a part of this. This is off of Billboard. This is Dave Chappelle said, I would like to apologize to, I'm just fucking with you, said the comedian on stage, referencing the criticism he's gotten for jokes he made in his Netflix special released earlier this month about the transgender community. So this is his first time out since the special came out, which I think was good, a smart move, kind of just, because that's what you do is people get so heated about it, just let them cool down a little bit, because then they realize how ridiculous it is. It's like, so I'm just gonna read a snippet of this for you. With a fire of anger still burning around his recent Netflix comedy special, Dave Chappelle stepped out Saturday night to induct Jay-Z into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The comedian who resides in rural Yellow Springs, Ohio, began his speech by saying, I'd like to apologize. So the controversy has led to a backlash against Netflix by its employees for supporting the comedian's viewpoint. Now let me stop right there.
Okay.
That simple phrase right there says it all. Because all of this to me is just the latest version of censorship. The problem is it's not coming from the establishment anymore. It's coming from people who don't know how to change the channel.
Yeah.
And they get offended, and instead of just changing the channel, they decide to stay on the channel and try to eliminate the channel, which is the most ridiculous thing. So, I mean, that right there is basically the controversy is they're supporting the comedian's viewpoint. So as long as the opinion is agreeable to them,
right,
it's okay.
Right.
That's the problem across the board, right there. That's cancel culture.
Yep.
If you don't agree with me, no, I don't have to agree with you. Matter of fact, I don't give a fuck what you think, because it's not about what you think. My opinion is about what I think. You're allowed to think what you think, but
right.
I'm not gonna bash you for it. I'm not gonna dismiss you for it. That's your opinion. And this whole thing, in my opinion, in my viewpoint,
right,
is here it is, a person literally saying that they don't understand, they don't comprehend the entire thing about transgender or a culture or something. Dave Chappelle is directly saying, look, I don't really get it. which is exactly where you start a conversation. But instead of them having a conversation with them, they want to slam the door and just get rid of it altogether. That's like when people were afraid to say the word cancer.
Yeah.
Remember how people were so afraid to say cancer? Cancer, they'd whisper it. Because like you're going to catch it if you say it out loud.
Right.
Like if you don't talk about it, it's not going to exist. That's the problem with just about everything we have going right now.
There is that. And there's so many things in that story. First off, the one that really pisses me off the most is that Jay-Z is not a rock star. He should not be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
He is not a rock star.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not hating, yo. I love Jay-Z. But I do have a problem with hip-hop artists being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because they're not. I love the Beastie Boys, right? They're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I think Run DMC is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
True. But can I just say,
I'm a big fan of them.
I love them, too.
Yeah.
But just to back up Beasties, they were originally a punk band.
Yeah.
So at least they play instruments. But Jay-Z, I love him. Come
Cookie
on.
Puss and all that back in the day.
Good stuff. I mean,
Beastie Boys.
When they were on SNL back in the day, and they played Sabotage and they played their own instruments.
Yeah.
People are like, what? And I go, yes, that's what they do.
They were turned into a rap group.
Yeah.
But, they were originally a punk band.
Punk band.
So it's like, I agree with that. But well, if you want to see who all got in, it's going to be, it was filmed by HBO and will air starting November 20th.
Okay.
So you can see what other non-rock and roll
I bet there's a lot.
I know. I was going to look up. I didn't have time to look up who all got inducted.
Man.
But yeah, I think Taylor Swift inducted somebody as well.
Oh, God.
But I was like, that's a cool story. But Jay-Z's not. He's not in the rocks.
I'd like to have a go at Taylor Swift one time.
Just once.
Just once.
Just once.
But I didn't have to embarrass myself. Just once. I bet she's a freak.
I got a feeling.
But yeah, man. I'm just thinking about years from now when they start inducting Cardi B. That's how I'm going to kill myself.
Oh man.
Like 30 or 20 years from now, whatever it is. She's going to make it. She's going to be in there. And once I hear that, I'm just going to. I swear to God, if I don't have a gun, I'm going to borrow my neighbor's.
You're not going to be around for that, man.
You're right. It's all going to be over
safe.
well before then.
You're safe.
But to talk about the Chappelle thing, first off, am I for everything he says? I would pay $100 to watch him do an hour talking about nothing, because that's how much I love Dave Chappelle. But it's not just him. Right now, he's still in the hot seat. You're right. But the cancel culture, the fact of I'm offended because of the overuse of the word offended. Offended really isn't even a word. You can be offended technically, but is it truly offensive? Are you really offended? It's just, to me, an empty word. You could say, oh, I didn't like what you said. I'd rather have you say that than because it's like anything nowadays. Offended is a catchword, because once someone hears it, they go, I am too. I am too.
Yeah, they have a definition of offended that isn't, it doesn't really fit what offended is.
Especially,
you're not offended, you just don't agree.
Yeah,
that's it.
Or you don't like the story or the joke.
Yeah, I didn't really like that. You know? It's like, I'm offended. Offended, that's another extreme.
That's very extreme when you think about it.
Come on, man.
Right. It's like when you happen to say, you joke around, you go, I hate that person. You go, hate? That really is that's a strong-ass word. But you're so offended. You're offended?
Yeah.
You just didn't like it, or you didn't get it, or you just don't want to be a part of it. And I'd rather have you look at me in the eye and go, I thought what you said tonight sucked. I'd rather have you say that.
Yeah.
And we can maybe talk about it.
Yeah.
It happened to me on radio sometimes. You get callers sometimes, especially at night, and they're drunk or whatever. They're like, you suck, and they hang up on you. And I would even go on the air and go, hey, whoever did that, call me back. And once in a while they would call back, and I go, did you tell me I sucked? They go, yeah. I go, now let me ask you, why? Just give me why. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes they go, well, because you keep playing this song. I go, well, let me explain something to you. I'm not the one playing this song all the time. I'm told to do it. Oh, really? Yeah. And I explain to them some of the insides of things. And they're like, oh, okay, man. So do I still suck? No, man, you're cool. I'm like, well, I like you too, bro.
You're
and
right.
yeah, so at least you leave like friends.
Yeah.
But don't tell me, man, I'm offended. It's like, well, if I'm going to offend you then, if you're that easily offended, I should really step it up and say some shit I don't want to say. Because if you're going to say you're offended, I really want you to be offended.
Might as well make sure it counts.
Exactly. If you're going to try and here's what I love about being Pat Largo. I don't know about you, because you got a lot of clout around here. No one's going to cancel Pat Largo. You know why? Nobody knows who Pat Largo is.
That's it. We're safe.
I could say some jokes, and they might go, "Oh, that was pretty bad." But no one's going to go, "You cancel that four-eyed motherfucker who just said you're not." No one's going to say that but Dave Chappelle, yes. Bill Burr, yes.
Well, the thing is, what's beautiful. First of all, you're never going to cancel us.
That's true.
First of all, you got to subscribe.
That's right.
So, subscribe before you can cancel us.
And then you can unsubscribe.
Yeah, make it meaningful. First of all, don't just say it. Do something.
Right.
Make it realistic.
Make it hurt.
But I don't think Dave. Well, there's a handful of people that are just not going to get canceled ever. Mm-hmm. Dave Chappelle's one of them. Bill Burr. He's walking a thin line just because he's white. That's going to go against him.
It does, yeah.
That's going to take away some points. But here's a white guy who's not going to get canceled. Eminem. You're not going to cancel Eminem because you know why? That's what he thrives on.
Yeah.
Eminem, Dice Clay, they thrive on controversy. So it's like whatever you throw at them, perfect. That's gonna be perfect for them because all you're doing is doing exactly what feeds their machine. Mm-hmm. So you're helping them. So it backfires on you like that, and that's the same with me. It's like I don't really care. It's like I don't have any clout to begin with, and my brand doesn't lend itself to canceling because I have to give a shit before I can be canceled. If I don't give a shit, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't because you can say you're going to cancel, you can try to cancel, but at the end of the day, if you're the person canceling me, you're not the person I'm trying to reach. So it doesn't really fucking matter.
Right, I agree, and to people, again, right now listening, going, "Oh, these is see that now they're making my blood boil."
Yeah,
it's like
we're doing it.
Yeah, but we haven't even said shit yet. But these are the people who go, "I can't wait. Put these guys on the list now." And
well,
it's
listen,
like, man, come on.
We're gonna follow the Dave Chappelle story because obviously for reasons that relate to what we do, and just because it's an interesting point in society.
Yeah.
But we're going to move on.
Okay.
To next story.
Yes, sir.
They just came out with a list of 4 stand-up specials that showcase hard-working comics, and this is from the New York Times. Okay. So let me just read you the little clip here, the little intro here. The stand-up specials that get the most attention tend to be made by celebrities, but as dedicated comedy fans know, our fans that are listening now, the funniest ones are much more likely to emerge from mid-career workhorses, like the artist who recently put out These New Hours. So they got 4 comics here, and you'll probably recognize most of them. Mm-hmm. One is Theo Vaughn.
Beautiful.
With he has a new special on Netflix called Regular People. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've seen that.
Did.
I have not seen that, so I'll let you comment on that. Let me tell you who the second person is. Roy Wood Jr.
Yes.
Obviously from Comedy Central's The Daily Show.
Florida guy.
He's very funny.
Yep.
Ricky Velez, HBO Max. He's got a special called Here's Everything. And Joe Firestone. And she has a special on Peacock, and it's called Good Timing with Joe Firestone.
Wow.
So for Theo Vaughn, you may know him. He first burst onto the scene via MTV, the reality show Road Rules, and he's one of those guys. He started out on the reality shows, but after that, he was on the Road Rules, and maybe another one after that. But he went to the grind and started doing stand up. Like I remember him coming through, featuring. He was just like everybody else, just like toughing it out, building his show, building materials. But I haven't seen that special. How was that?
Well, first off, you taught me. I didn't know he came from the from a reality
MTV,
show background.
Yeah,
I didn't
way
know that.
back, yeah,
okay,
way back.
That's
in the
cool.
day.
Because I think he's in his early 40s now, if I'm not mistaken.
He's got to be.
Great.
He's got to be somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Because he did that in his 20s.
Sure.
And then he's been at it for a while now.
That's funny. I mean, that's probably the last time I watched MTV. Probably that long ago. I haven't watched any of the MTVs. The special, I enjoyed it because it's Theo Vaughn. I like his background. I like his story.
Yeah.
I like his style of how he delivers material.
Yeah,
and
he's got that
jokes.
little southern conversational. He's from Louisiana.
He's from Louisiana.
Yeah.
His dad was like close to 80 when he was born, 70 something
wow.
or 80 when he was born. I swear to God. And you know, and he's not one of those guys. I don't think that actually really puts it on when he's on stage per se.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch his podcast and listen to him, he's got that southern accent. He does get a little southern ghetto sometimes because he's from that part of town.
Yeah, he'll speak a little of the slang, you know.
Yeah.
It's
fantastic.
The words from.
It's fantastic.
Well, that's what they mentioned that
Yeah.
in the article too. They're like, he comes up with his own wordings, which is perfect if you're a comedian. That sets you apart right away.
Oh, no doubt. And that's what gets me because I first saw him, and but one of the things I love was that Comedy Central show, This Is Not Happening.
Yeah.
Right? And Ari Shaffir was a host, and then Roy Wood took over. And Theo was on there one day talking for 20 minutes about how he kicked alcohol and cocaine. But I'm really not going to spoil it for you. So if you just go YouTube or check it out on streaming on Comedy Central. But he talks about his ride in a New York City cab while doing coke with the cab driver. And the whole time is he has to go on the Opie and Jim Norton show in New York at 6 a.m. He's out till like 4 in the morning. And who's the guest? I'm not going to spoil it. There's a certain guest that's on the show with him after Theo did a whole night's worth of cocaine. So if you go check out, I think it's called This Is Not Happening.
Yeah,
I believe it is, right?
Yeah, that's
on just YouTube it.
Yeah,
so
you should be able to pull that up.
But I love the special, and it's in front of the huge crowd in the theater, and it's beautiful. And I like it because he is who he is. He gets a little slow sometimes, and sometimes like at one point he goes, so what else is going on? Like he's so conversational. You go, uh-oh. But then he like starts blowing out more material, more jokes. And you're like, oh, okay, he's got plenty.
He just catches up to his set list. Yeah.
And I just enjoy. Again, it's so that's what makes I think comedy so. It's so natural and simple because it's a microphone and people, and that's it, man. And you all struggle or laugh together.
It's a perspective. So
but I like that new special.
I would definitely check out these specials. Roy Wood Jr. If you watch the Daily Show, you're familiar with him, so you might want to check that out. Ricky Velez, I have not seen, but he's apparently he's a Queens-born comic.
Okay.
So I would check him out. Let's see here. It says. At his best, Velez has the swagger of a con man on a hot streak. He's nervy, side-eyeing everyone. Velez talks about anxiety and insecurities rooted in a hard-scrabbled childhood, but he doesn't wallow in it.
Okay.
So unlike you, he doesn't wallow.
No, I got problems. I wallow.
So check him out. And then Joe Firestone. I'll just read a brief snippet from this. My favorite moment in this comic documentary about a group of senior citizens taking a comedy class is when we are dropped in the middle of a rambling digression from an older lady in a scarf saying she wished religion and gender were banned, then segues into the horror of the Holocaust and a story about coal mines before the camera shifts to the comic Joe Firestone sitting across from her. So this is more. It sounds like kind of like a mockumentary type of thing or something.
Yeah.
Or like a really, really silly documentary, offbeat documentary.
That one, I don't know if that one's going to twist my pickle right there. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So I that might be one to check out if you got Peacock, Joe Firestone. But we're going to move on.
I got Peacock.
We're trekking on. Yeah, we all do.
So we got.